Something about this entire situation doesn't just feel dramatic. It feels like a slow-motion collapse. Because for the man once known as Prince Harry, this past week didn't begin with uncertainty. It began with confidence. Real confidence. The kind of confidence that comes from believing you've already won, before the final chapter has even been written. At the start of the year, as he prepared to return to the United Kingdom, stepping once again onto home soil, there was a clear sense, at least from his side, that this legal battle was already leaning in his favor. A case built against powerful media forces like the Daily Mail, the Mail Online, and the Mail on Sunday. On paper, it looked strong. In theory, it felt justified. And in Harry's mind, it may have felt inevitable. But here's where things begin to shift. If you are enjoying this video and want to see more updates and insights, don't forget to like this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel Wind Insiders so you never miss out on the latest news and discussions. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about this story. Because court cases don't operate on emotion. They don't reward belief. And they certainly don't guarantee clean victories. In fact, as many seasoned observers will tell you, there are no real winners in court. Even when you win, you lose something. Reputation, time, privacy, control, and perhaps most dangerously of all, narrative. Because once you take on the press, the story doesn't end when the judge speaks. That's when it begins. The media, as history has shown time and time again, does not take kindly to being challenged. And those who attempt to fight back often discover that the aftermath can be far more relentless than the original headlines. This isn't theory. It's pattern. And it's a pattern that Prince William appeared to understand long before this moment ever arrived. Because years ago, behind closed doors, there were warnings, quiet advice, a different strategy entirely. Don't engage. Don't escalate. Pick your battles. Unless something truly crosses the line, something deeply intrusive, something personal, something undeniable, it's often wiser to let the storm pass rather than run directly into it. And William lived by that approach. Measured, controlled, selective. But Harry? Harry chose confrontation. He believed, perhaps deeply, that this was about more than headlines. That this was about standing up, drawing a line, and finally confronting what he saw as years of unfair treatment. Slaying the dragons. That was the mission. But what happened next surprised everyone. Because beneath the legal arguments, beneath the public statements, beneath even the courtroom drama, there were older, quieter stories still lingering in the background. Stories that never fully disappeared. One of them being his relationship with Chelsea Davy, a relationship that, by many accounts, ran far deeper than most ever realized, and perhaps one that never truly found closure. Because when something meaningful ends without resolution, it doesn't vanish. It lingers. It shapes decisions. It influences reactions. And some close to the situation have long suggested that Harry's ongoing battle with the media wasn't just about principle. It was personal. Because it was easier, perhaps, to point outward, to blame intrusion, to blame coverage, than to confront the possibility that not everything that went wrong could be placed at the feet of the press. And to be fair, those who were around during that time have said, quietly and carefully, that the full story was always more complicated. That Harry himself wasn't entirely blameless. But regardless of where the truth fully lies, the case moved forward. And for a while, everything seemed exactly as expected. A clear direction, a confident approach, an outcome that felt, at least internally, secured. Until the very end. Because this is where it all unraveled. On the final day, just when everything appeared to be closing neatly, something surfaced. Not loudly, not immediately, but powerfully enough to change everything. A name, a connection, a detail from the past that refused to stay buried. Charlotte Griffiths. And suddenly, the entire tone of the case shifted. Because this wasn't just about journalism anymore. It wasn't just about investigation, reporting, or media conduct. The details that emerged, messages, exchanges, the nature of communication, painted a picture that felt different, more familiar, more personal. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. Because when you read between those lines, it no longer feels like a simple professional interaction. There's a tone there, a warmth, an ease, something that suggests that, at the very least, there was a level of mutual connection that goes beyond a standard journalist-source relationship. Was it inappropriate? Unclear. Was it significant? Possibly. Was it damaging? Absolutely. Because perception is everything. And suddenly, the narrative Harry had carefully constructed, of distance, of intrusion, of being targeted, no longer aligned perfectly with what was now emerging. And that's where the real problem begins. Because consistency is the foundation of credibility. And once that cracks, even slightly, everything else becomes questionable. It didn't help that Harry had previously made firm statements, clear denials, positioning himself as someone entirely removed from any such interactions. At one point even distancing himself from the idea of being involved in anything resembling mischief. But now, that position feels less certain. And when something like this happens once, it raises eyebrows. When it happens more than once, it raises alarms. Because this isn't the first time questions have been asked about recollections, about omissions, about whether everything has been fully and accurately presented. And in a courtroom setting, that matters a lot. Behind the scenes, urgent questions began to surface. Were these messages authentic? Could they be verified? Did they truly originate from Harry? And perhaps most importantly, how could this have been overlooked? Because in today's world, even messages from years ago can be traced, analyzed, confirmed. Digital footprints don't disappear. They wait. And at the worst possible moment, they resurface. Which is exactly what appears to have happened here. Because by the time this revelation came to light, the case was already reaching its conclusion. There was no time to reshape the narrative. No time to recover control. Only time to react. And the reaction? By many accounts, shock. Because this wasn't part of the plan. Not even close. What was expected to be a decisive moment of validation instead became something far more complicated. Far more costly. Because now, the financial implications are only one part of the equation. The reputational impact? That's where the real damage lies. Because this doesn't just affect a case. It affects a brand. A carefully constructed image. A public identity built on trust, transparency, and truth. And when cracks appear in that image, especially repeatedly, they don't go unnoticed. They echo. They linger. They grow. Meanwhile, the journalist at the center of this storm has done something telling. She's stepped back. Gone quiet. Because when you move from reporting the story to becoming part of it, everything changes. Every word. Every action. Every silence. And for Harry, the consequences are now unavoidable. Because what began as a mission to confront the past may have just reopened it in ways he never expected. And now, instead of controlling the narrative, he's caught inside it. Again. And this time, there may be no easy way out. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more updates and insights, don't forget to like this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on the latest news and discussions. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about this story.